It is indeed an honor for me to be amongst such an august gathering. Uh, and more importantly, I mean, for me, this paper is important because it was part of my capstone project that I prepared for Center for Women, Faith and Leadership. And the title of the capstone in front of you reflects the problem as well as the challenges to address the issue. It is an important subject that needs attention, and why I'm saying that religious minorities are a target as well as victim in Pakistan is because as a schoolgirl, I did not realize I was different from non-Muslim. I would have Christian friends, Shia friends, Hindus, Sikhs friends, but my parents never ever told me not to intermingle with them. Unfortunately, things have changed now. Pakistani society is an amalgamation of religious, regional and national identities. The total population is divided on economic, religious, regional, ethnic and linguistic basis. If we divide the population on religious lines, amongst the total of 96.28% of Muslim populations, 85 to 90% are Sunni Muslims, whereas 10 to 15% are Shia Muslims. Religious minorities are 3%. Initially, they were 25% at the time of independence of Pakistan, but now they are 3%, and among them Christians are 1.60%, Hindus 0.22%, Ahmadis 0.25%, and other religious minorities stand at 0.07%. A review of Pakistani politics shows that religious freedom is protected by law and guaranteed under the Constitution of Pakistan. The founding father, Muhammad Ali Jinnah, envisioned a state that represents all communities, enjoying equal rights and a role in policy making. His speech, which is in front of you, on the inauguration of the Constituent Assembly on September 11, 1947, spells out the spirit of nationhood. However, after his death, religious right were distorting his words, and in some instances there was deliberate attempt to censor his famous speech. At present, Pakistan is faced with challenges from all kinds of extremist ideologies, which is resulting in a clash not only amongst Christians, Sikhs, Hindus and Muslims, but among different sects of Islam. Next slide, please. There's a broad agreement that the first two constitutions, that is 1956 and 1962, had unequivocal protection of the rights of religious minorities. However, in 1973 constitution, the Ahmadi group was declared as non-Muslim by the liberal President Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, who was responding to pressure from religious political parties. The constitution also requires the President and the Prime Minister to be Muslim. Now, there is a general perception about the discrimination against religious minorities, that these are not constitutional problems but societal. Because previously people never complained, but now there is a wide perception even amongst the Muslims that Christian and Hindus are discriminated against, including other religious minorities. When we talk about the problem, the phenomena of violent sectarian and religious extremism, violence against religious minorities is one of the major challenges that Pakistan is facing today. Various factors are believed to have contributed to discrimination against religious minorities. The regional and international context of the issue cannot be ignored. And various actors particularly religious clerics, including political leadership, played the religion card for their vested interest. Despite the constitutional guarantees and passage of several bills, oppression of religious minorities on many occasions goes unnoticed by the state. As a result, it has caused alienation between and among the faith followers from different faith communities. The role of leaders in helping to create an atmosphere of religious extremism and intolerance cannot be ignored. General Muhammad Zia-ul-Haq is generally blamed for Islamization of the constitution through his dictatorial orders. But Zulfikar Ali Bhutto was no less than him when he said that there is no other constitution in any country of the world that has more Islamic provisions than the Constitution of Pakistan. General Zia, on the other hand, made blasphemy laws more strict by adding Article 295C and 295B and C and Article 298B and C to Pakistan Penal Code, prohibiting Ahmadis from adopting a Muslim identity. Similarly, he introduced separate electorate for religious minorities as an essential part of his plan to turn Pakistan into a theocratic state. And again, sectarian violence is also said to have increased during General Zia era. Some, however, disagree with this perception and blame the West in the first Gulf War for sectarian rift, particularly between Shia and Sunni Muslims. Now, when we discuss the problems and challenges, blasphemy laws are one among those challenges that is faced by Pakistan, the state of Pakistan. It is criticized and considered hostile and discriminatory because in most cases the allegations level against any person, whether he's a non-Muslim or a Muslim, are false, but they spend years in jail awaiting court's decision. And it is also true that the perpetrators get away with the law most of the times. A religious scholars that I interviewed during my research maintain that blasphemy law itself is not incorrect, for it has a basis and reason behind it. However, the misuse must be checked and analyzed, otherwise the society will be destroyed. Another religious scholar said that people or religion cannot be blamed for its misuse. The problem is in the procedure in the police stations and in the courts, which is helping the misuse without realization of the harm they are causing to the religion. Another problem, Madrasa or the religious schools. They are also criticized for their curriculum, the ideological indoctrination and radicalization of students, and its use as a platform for spreading hate speech against minority sects and non-Muslims. The official numbers of registered madrasas in Pakistan is around 26,000. With the increase in their number, officials believe that 8,000 to 9,000 madrasas are unregistered, and 2 to 5% of them may have links to militancy. Also, various studies show that some of the madrasas are very eager to play a political role, and majority of them consider it as a religious obligation. In response to the international and national concerns about the situation of religious minorities, the government initiated policies to address the issue. A landmark judgment of the Supreme Court of Pakistan came on June 19, 2014, which issued directives to the government to take concrete steps to mainstream them. Efforts to reduce tension and encourage religious pluralism included giving new authority to the National Commission for Minorities and creating Ministry of Minority Affairs. Similarly, de-radicalization programs were initiated in Swat after defeating TTPs. I'll just take a few more minutes. In 2009, and another one in Eastern Punjab in 2011, focusing on Kashmiri Jihadi groups. With regard to blasphemy law, the chairman of Islamic Ideological Council in a press conference showed his willingness to review the law. Steps were also taken to introduce Madrasa reforms, which included scrutinizing of its curriculum and religious material, mapping of registered and unregistered madaris, auditing of their accounts and checking their sources of fundings. In 2002, it was under General Pervez Musharraf who introduced joint electorate, under which the non-Muslims were not required to declare themselves as, to declare their religion, to use their voting right. And most recently, the 20 points National Action Plan was introduced to counter radicalism and counter terrorism by strategy by announcing zero tolerance for militancy and religious and sectarian violence. Next, please. Despite the measures taken by the government, there are gaps in policy making which needs to be addressed to guarantee minority rights and security and to ensure a stable and peaceful Pakistan. One important thing that I learned during my research is that the religious and political leaders are aware of the misuse of blasphemy law, and many showed their willingness about bringing up changes in the law, but they were reluctant due to reaction from conservative elements. It is also important to take tangible measures to advance public education in on Pakistan's diversity, because there is inconsistency in Madrasa registration at the provincial level, and there is no proper mechanism for keeping a check on mosques, which are also used as a platform for hate speech. Moreover, the progress on Madrasa reform is also slow because there is no monitoring body to monitor the reforms. And this is my final slide. So despite government action, the banned militant outfits reorganized and regrouped under new names. And there are those militant outfits which have regrouped under new names. Similarly, the government is criticized that it is dragging its feet on implementing all other clauses of National Action Plan. And finally, to conclude, I would say that to curb religious extremism and intolerance, the government should engage and support civil society organizations, academics, policy analysts, journalists, and advocates, and adherents of different religions in their efforts to promote tolerance and peaceful coexistence. The government should also hold national seminars and conferences to regularly evaluate religious extremism in order to improve upon the weaknesses and policies on the issue. And I'm saying this because when I was interviewing religious and political leaders for my research, a few members of the minority communities and political and religious figures, while failing to address these issues, laid all the blame on the West and extremist elements within the country and those who were other countries who were supporting them. While I do not deny the role of the extremist elements or foreign hands involved in extremism, but the question is, can the failure of various governments who knowingly ignore factors contributing to this threat be justified? Because if the state does not address discrimination, it always leads to public discontent, which can be manipulated by interest group that paves the way for violence. And this is how I see violence against religious minorities. Unfortunately, religious and political leaders have failed to play a role in bringing the tension to a halt. And I thank you all for your patience.